Hello, this is Just in Japan, and I'm doing an audio content only preliminary review of my new motorbike, which is a Suzuki GSX-S 1000F. Today is the 7th of September 2020. I picked up the bike last week on the 3rd of September 2020, totally brand new. 0 miles on the odometer because here in Japan, unfortunately, we are unable to test ride vehicles. So I wasn't even allowed to test ride it before buying it. And I wanted just to talk briefly about it. So on the day I picked it up, I rode it back from the dealer, and the dealer's 10 kilometers. We're on kilometers here in Japan, 10 kilometers, which is about 6 miles from my home. However, I felt like I wanted to do a few more miles than that because I just bought it, was very excited about it, and I took it for a ride. I ended up doing 30 kilometers in total, about 20 miles, and then brought it home. And Friday I was working, but Saturday I had a day off Saturday, and I took it for a much longer ride. Now, I live in an area which is on the edge of a very mountainous region. Japan is very mountainous, so I was able to take it out on the mountain twisties on Saturday morning, and I took it to a place which you can see in a video on YouTube. You can see a previous video I've made about that. It's a biker hangout in Japan, in the mountains of Japan. So, initial thoughts on the motorbike. Well, my other bike, which is the one I've been riding for several years, is a Yamaha XJ900S Diversion. So, I have owned other bikes, but because I've been riding the Diversion 900 for so long, that's the only thing I can compare it with. And I've never owned a full-on sports bike. The Diversion is categorized as a sports tourer, and the Suzuki, now that I've got the GSX-S 1000F, that is categorized as a sports bike, though of course the GSX-R is really the true sports bike, but Suzuki have put it in the same category as the GSX-R, the GSX-R, and the Gix. I don't know whether to call it a Gixxus. I don't know the best way to. Yeah, so GSX-R is normally called a Gixxer, so let's call a GSX-S a Gixxus, for want of a better expression, because the letters are rather a mouthful. So initial impression is that, of course, I should say that I am running it in, and there's some debate as to whether modern vehicles need running in. I asked the dealer about it. He looked it up in the manual while I was sitting in front of him, something I suppose I could have done myself, but he looked it up in the manual, and Suzuki clearly state that there is a running in period of 1,000 kilometers, whereby we should keep the revs below. Now, it was either maximum 5,000 or 5,500, I forget now. But rather interestingly, on the dash is fully digital. It's a monocolor. It's a grey background with black information on this display, which is about the size of a large smartphone screen, and perfectly visible, by the way. I don't have any problems with it. I'm not sure why it isn't in colour, because I thought that was all the rage now, but I think the Gixxus and Suzuki are going for they're saving money. They're going for cost cutting on certain areas, and I think that's one of the places where they're cost cutting. And the display's fine. It's my first ever modern bike. The Diversion 900, which I had, which I still got, is a 2005 model, but it is based on old technology. It's old school. Everything's analog, and I will actually tell a lie. There's a small LCD clock on it, as in for telling the time. It has a small LCD clock for telling the time on it. So apart from that, it's fully I mean, sure, of course, it's got digital ignition, but it's carbureted and all the rest of it. Now, one of the first things I noticed when I pulled up next to my diversion was that the Suzuki, the GSX-S, has got a very fat back tyre. Now, this is my first ever full-on sports bike. Not totally full-on because the riding position is more upright than the GSX-S. It's than any sports bike. So that appealed to me. And the reason that appealed to me was because I didn't really feel like I wanted my body weight on my wrists for prolonged periods. So I wanted a more comfortable riding position. The seats are quite wide and comfortable. I found the seat comfortable. The back of the bike is quite sporty because the pillion seat is raised above the rider's seat in true sports fashion over the very back of the bike, and it tapers off. It's very narrow. You can see pictures of it. You can look it up. I don't plan on taking any pillions. I really don't enjoy taking pillions, but I really rather ride on my own. And as I said, it is. Although I'm comparing it with, the reason I'm comparing it with the Diversion 900 is I don't have anything else to compare it with because I've been riding that for so long. So if you're a die-hard sports bike rider, then you probably wouldn't be interested in this bike. But for somebody, a middle-aged man who's been riding more conventional bikes, street upright bikes, and what do they call them? The standard Japanese bikes, whatever they call them. And I found that the first thing I suppose I really noticed that was totally amazing was the handling, the way that the bike goes around corners. It's the first time in my life that I've owned several bikes, and it's the first time in my life I've ever leaned over going round corners at any significant speed, and not having to brake too much. Also, the bike's got a slipper clutch, so that's the first for me. I've never had that. Again, I'm really coming into the 21st century with this bike. I've never owned bikes with all this modern technology, so the slipper clutch is amazing because it's definitely something that I appreciate. Because engine braking is important, I think, and with with my other bike, when I'm going around the mountain twisties, it's very easy for the back wheel to lock when you change down a gear, when you're approaching very sharp bends. So I really like the slipper clutch on this, and as I say, it's not exclusive to this bike. It's pretty standard, I think, on sports bikes and a lot of bikes now. But it's the very first for me to have a slipper clutch. So if you're on an old bike, I love old bikes. I think they look wonderful. But I've just got to the stage now where I think I'll just appreciate old bikes in museums and photos, and I'll congratulate other people who own old bikes for keeping them going. But I've come to the stage where I just want modern technology. Traction control. This bike's got a 4-setting traction control. There's off, that's one of the settings, you can turn it off, which I suppose is for track days. And it's got three settings of traction control when it's on. And the third, I don't really know what they call. It's just 1, 2, and 3 on the display. That can be set on the left side of the handlebars when you're riding, you can set that. Setting 3 they recommend for rainy conditions. I thought I would set the traction control to the strongest setting, the rain setting, during my run-in period. So, I'm running it in, and in case you didn't catch it earlier, it's a 1,000 kilometer running in period where you need to keep the revs below either 5 or 5,500, something like that. And the dealer reminded me, because I've never had, not only have I never had a new bike before, a brand new bike, I've never had a motorbike with brand new tyres, because all the bikes I've ever had, I never had them long enough I have now, my Diversion now does need new tyres, but I never wore down the tyres. I always got the bikes with plenty of tyre tread on them. So he said to me that the dealer, he said the tyres, they're brand new, be careful, they're slippery, they haven't worn in yet. And of course he said go carefully, and we need to obviously take care with the tyres. We need to wear them in a bit before they're up to full performance. Now, I found the tyres, even these brand new tyres were unbelievably good at gripping the road. Really, really fantastic. So when they've worn in, they must, assuming they're going to get better, it's absolutely amazing. So this is not only a preliminary review of the bike, this is also me in awe of just modern technology and modern bikes, and just, my experience of sort of changing from old tech and an older bike to a new bike. So I decided to try switching off the traction control. No, tell a lie, I'm going to rephrase that. I tried setting the traction control to level 2. Then I set it on level 1, and on Saturday I ended up riding most of the time on level 1. I can't say that I noticed any big difference, but then again, I am riding below 5,000 RPM, so don't know whether I'll notice any major difference when I start opening up the revs in the future after the 1,000 kilometer run-in period. But anyway, another thing which was interesting for me, this is my first ever liquid cooled bike. Now, all my previous bikes have been air cooled. Some of them have been oil cooled, but they've all been air cooled, no liquid cooling. And this is a new one for me. Now, because of all the fairing, I can't really see the engine much, and this is the first time I've had full fairing on a bike, whereby the engine is really totally obscured. I can hardly see anything at all. You can just see like the end of the crankcase and stuff like that. And it's got fans. It's got like electrically operated cooling fans, which I didn't really think about before. I never thought that they would have, like a liquid cooled bike would have cooling fans that a car has. So I suppose it seems obvious now, but when you've never owned one, you don't think about it. So one of the very first things was when I picked up the bike, I was riding home through rush hour traffic, and I was stuck in traffic, and it was a very hot day, and the cooling fans came on, and I could feel hot air being blown out through the side of the fairing, much of which was blowing onto my legs, by the way. And it was an interesting experience to hear cooling fans. That's just a new one anyway for me. What else has the bike got? Well, apparently part of the traction control is also wheelie control. It stops the front wheel lifting. I don't know if I think I understood that correctly. I'm not sure. I'm not one for wheelies. I don't do wheelies. I'm not going to intentionally do wheelies. I've done them accidentally sometimes. Not on this new bike, but I've done them on other bikes. The diversion will do little wheelies if you accelerate hard. So this is my first, as I said, first bike that's officially a sports bike, but it isn't a full-on sports bike, as I said, because we're not leaning right over the tank. Now the screen is small. This is, I've had bikes with screens. The diversion's got quite a large screen. This screen is very small, and I didn't really feel I was benefiting much from the screen. Now I have to say, it does sound a bit weak of me, but I would rather have a larger screen because, as I said, I am planning on going on some trips, some long road trips. I'm planning on doing a bit of touring. Now, there is basically amongst the videos I've seen on YouTube and the reviews I've read about the bike, the bike is not, doesn't appear to be suitable for touring, although one thing is there's no luggage kit. Suzuki doesn't produce any luggage kit for it. But I have seen some photos on the internet with people running the bike for touring and using some sort of aftermarket or third-party touring panniers. So I need to look into that because and if you know about that, let me know, because I would be interested to know if anybody's riding this bike and they are touring and they are using any luggage. Please let me know, because I am planning on doing some long trips, and that's why I've preferred a larger screen. And I'm going to look into some larger screen options if they are available. I asked at the dealer, and he seemed to think that and just for the record, there are no Suzuki dealers. You have to go to a generic dealer in Japan. The other three major manufacturers, Honda, Kawasaki and Yamaha, they all have their own dedicated dealer networks, but Suzuki does not have a dedicated dealer network for their motorbikes. So we have to go to a generic dealer that sells every brand of motorbike, be it Japanese or non-Japanese brands. So I asked the dealer, and they weren't really into many options. The only option they were offering me was an electronic toll collection system. This is when you go through, because in Japan the motorways, the what you might call, they call them expressways, we call them motorways in Britain. They are toll roads. You have to pay for those in Japan, and you can have a little device that goes on your vehicle that means you don't need to deal with cash at a toll booth. You can just well, you probably know what I'm talking about. So it's a small box. But this leads me on to another thing. So the other bikes I've had have, for example, the diversion's got under seat storage. It's got plenty of the seat is in one piece, the rider and pillion seat on the diversion, and it's got quite a lot of storage space under the seat. This bike, the rider's seat does not come off, and just the little tiny pillion seat comes off, and there's a tiny amount of storage space where there is a toolkit, and this ETC, this electronic toll collection system box, the little black box, is now in that position. And because in Japan we must carry our motorbike documents with us, that means I just sort of folded those up and put those in that space in a little plastic envelope. So there's almost no underseat storage, which is rather annoying, because the diversion had plenty, and I was able to put like I could fit like 2 bottled drinks under there, and I could fit like for example a cap, and when I got off the bike I could wear a cap. Now I got totally sunburnt on my head when I was making that video you can see previously on my channel here, because I couldn't fit a cap or sunglasses in the in the underseat storage, so that was annoying. So I'm gonna have to carry that stuff. It's all right in the winter when you ride you may be using a winter jacket and you've got plenty of pocket space. But I'm wearing a summer jacket, and it's a mesh jacket at the moment. It's so hot, and I really don't want the mesh to be blocked by I do have some pocket space, but I just want the air flowing because it's so hot. And I'm not one to compromise safety too much. I will wear a jacket with key padding and protection. But yeah, so initial impressions are that it certainly is it certainly is an amazingly good handling bike, and it certainly it is enjoyable to ride. When I rode it on Saturday, I didn't really want to get off it. I just wanted to keep riding. I really enjoyed it. Criticisms of the bike, as I said, the screen I think is really too small. It just blows. It just channels the wind somewhere around your chest or neck area, depending on how tall you are or what position you want to ride in. I found the seat height is okay. It's sort of what we would call in Britain a medium seat height, although in Japan here it's considered a high seat height. And I found it all right. And the criticisms of it as well. Now I looked at reviews and videos of it, and the earlier models of this bike had issues with fuel delivery at low revs. So people were complaining that at low revs, the bike really was very unpleasant to ride with especially the fuel delivery. It is fuel injection, of course. I think most bikes are these days. Now I read that after 2 or 3 years, Suzuki they fixed that issue. However, absolutely has not been totally fixed, because I found that under 3,000 revs, under 3,000 RPM, it wasn't so smooth. I did find it a bit. I wouldn't say it was the sort of thing that you want to take it back to the dealer and complain too much about, but it wasn't perfectly smooth below 3,000 RPM. I will say though, when I got up into higher altitudes in the mountains, I didn't feel that was such an issue. It tended to be a problem, especially in traffic. I really did not enjoy riding the bike in traffic. Now, of course, having a big engine and being sporty, you don't want to ride a bike like this in traffic. But there are big bikes with big engines that are okay in traffic. I mean, my diversion is fine at any all through the rev range. It's a very torquey bike, and it's very smooth fuel delivery, and that uses 4 carburetors. But this Suzuki GSX-S is it's well, we'll see how it goes. But I wasn't impressed by the fuel delivery below 3,000 RPM. It was a bit I wouldn't say lumpy, but it was just a bit erratic. It wasn't so smooth. And of course, if the bike is apparently the engine is apparently from the 2005 model GSX-S, and it's been tuned for low and mid-range. Well, if it has been tuned for low revs, I mean mid-range I can believe that, but if it has been tuned for low revs, then that doesn't really make sense given my my experience of the sub 3,000 RPM riding experience. Also, something that my diversion is guilty of is terrible vibrations for prolonged periods. So I do find that I my my hands, and the longer I ride, my whole body seems to be vibrating after riding the diversion. But this Gixxus, I found that although of course it's nothing, it's a lot better than the diversion. I did have very slight vibrations in my hands after getting off the bike for a few minutes, which I need to look into that further. If you've got any advice on that, let me know, because that could be an issue if I go touring, go on very long rides. I don't really fancy having suffering from that for prolonged periods. I was wearing very thin, light summer gloves, and I have to wear gloves. Not the reason I wear gloves is, although I'm not really too worried about coming off the bike or having an accident, but I actually need to wear them to protect my hands from UV. I need to protect them from the sunlight, because the UV is very strong here, and my skin is rather white, so I get sunburnt very easily. So I just wear these fingerless gloves, which I bought in a what they call a home centre. It's like one of these sort of homewares and DIY places, very cheaply, very, very cheap indeed. The bike uses high occ. Now in Japan we've got, if you go to a fuel station, a gas station, a petrol station, whatever you want to call it, you've got three choices. You have regular, you have high occ, and you have diesel. And the bike, the dealer told me, uses high occ. I don't know what the octane level is in either regular or high occ. I don't know. I'm going to have to research that. So the diversion used regular. Well, I've been using regular. I just assumed it did use regular. I never imagined it would need high occ. I never thought to. It seems to run okay on regular. But this one uses high occ. Of course, the only problem I have with that is it's more expensive. But anyway, I don't know what the gas mileage is at the moment. The display and computer, they do tell me I can select options for fuel economy. I can see what the current fuel economy is. I can see what my average is. I can see what the tank range is. Stuff like that. I have to say I'm not too impressed with. I don't really like digital rev counters. I don't like that. I'd much rather have the traditional analog, or at least one that looks, even if it's digital, that it mimics the traditional rounded rev counters. I'd rather have that, to be honest. I think the digital. My initial impression of a digital rev counter is, well, I don't like it, and I don't know, maybe I'm old-fashioned, it just doesn't seem right to me. The digital speedo, of course this is nothing new, these particular points are not new technology. I just don't think that they've been that popular over the years, but they are all the rage now with digital displays. The digital speedo is an interesting one. I suppose it does help when it comes to trying to stick to the speed limit, because with powerful bikes, the speedos tend to be quite small, and it's quite difficult to discern your true speed limit, because the clock on traditional analog meters, they like hover around, and the thickness of the hand on the speedo is often 5 or 10 kilometers per hour in thickness. If you think about it, it's like a few millimeters thick. But I suppose there is an advantage, and I'm not complaining about having a digital speedo, because it definitely means I can, assuming it's accurate, that is, it definitely means that I can keep an eye on my speed, because I don't want to get speeding tickets, because I did get one a few months ago, and I just don't want it, so yeah, there we are. So this has been a preliminary review, albeit half an hour, of my new Suzuki GSX-S 1000F, and I shall be making some more videos, although this is, I'm sorry to say, audio content only. I'll try to make some more videos on it. I'm not here as a professional YouTuber. I'm just here to really document my own experience, and largely for myself. In the future, I'll listen back to this, and I'd be interested to hear my own thoughts in the future and my own life with the bike. And as I have the bike, I'm not sure how long I'll have the bike. Hopefully for quite a while. So I just enjoyed it so much when I was out on it on Saturday. And I think, of course, when we get a new bike, there is that initial feeling of owning something new, even if it isn't brand new, but it's new to us. In this case, it is brand new. And also, as I said, the jump in style from the sports tourer to the sports. Although, as I say, I'll say again, it's not a Gixxer, it's not an R version, it is an S version. But if you look on Suzuki's website, they have clearly put the bike with the sports bikes. And interestingly, the Gixxer, the unfaired version without the F, so the Gixxer 1000 as opposed to mine, which is a 1000F, the unfaired version is not in the sports section. It's in the street section with the katana. So that's an interesting one, because apart from the fairing, I think the performance and the mechanics of the thing, the performance, I think they're identical. As far as I know, it's only the fairing that's different. But there we are. This has been Just in Japan, and if you are listening to this and you've got some advice, I really would appreciate any constructive comments and advice to this video. Thanks a lot. I shall catch you again later.